Hello and welcome to a look ahead at the week beginning the 25th of April 2016 all the way up and through the 1st of May 2016. And I'm going to talk to you this week about how sometimes when it may feel like you don't really have it so good, you actually may have it better than you think that you do, right? And as I'm speaking this, there's a tone to the astrology of the week that really speaks to the concept of, maybe initially at the beginning of the week, wanting to be free of a difficult situation that's beginning to evolve. But as the week progresses, you're going to be less concerned about shifting the circumstances and actually more concerned about just doing the right thing, regardless of how long it takes you to sort out what doing that right thing is all about. We've got Mercury stationing retrograde this week on the 28th, and it will join Mars and Saturn and Jupiter, all of which are also already retrograde. So there's a lot of internal work that's being done, right? And sometimes it's difficult, especially with Mars retrograde, and Mercury and Mars do form an aspect with each other, and we'll get into that here in a moment. But sometimes it's difficult, especially with Mars retrograde, to feel, well, almost like you're powerless, right? I've been hearing a lot of reports from various people talking about how they just feel tired and like they just don't have the energy to deal with things. Well, things are definitely slowing down. And I've been talking the last couple of weeks about the fact that they're actually slowing down so that you take a good long look at something. Now, Mercury is going to station retrograde this week in Bharani Nakshatra. And with Mercury in Bharani Nakshatra, Mercury isn't being supported very well by Venus, which is the ruler of Bharani Nakshatra. And because of this, there's a transformation that's happening. And that transformation is hitting a lot of your sensitivities. You're sensing a difficult situation. At the beginning of the process, there seems like there's a lot of potential wrapped up in what you're experiencing. You can see the potent changes that are coming into being and the potential to really do something with them. But then this process is going to take you very deeply into a lot of what you feel about these particular circumstances. And the change isn't going to happen quickly. And so, like I said, at the beginning of the week, you're probably going to wish that it would. But actually, over the course of the week, you're going to go, you know what, maybe this is good. Maybe this situation that I'm looking at, that I'm facing, even though it's difficult and I wish that it would just be over and done with, well, maybe on one level it's good that I've got all this time to really take a deep look at it, because maybe before I wasn't really taking a deep look at this particular set of circumstances. And now I've got this really wonderful opportunity to do just that. Let's talk about some of the aspects that we've got going on this week. We've got the sun, which starts off the week in Ashwini Nakshatra and finishes the week in Bharani Nakshatra, as well as Mercury. And we've got a connection. Let's start there. Let's start with the fact, sorry, I'm kind of jumping all over the place, aren't I? Us astrologers do that. We talk about one thing and then another thought will come in our head, and then we all of a sudden want to talk about 7 different things at the same time and have to figure out how to do that in one sentence, right? So we've got the sun, Mercury, and Venus all together, forming a conjunction this week, right? And we've got Venus starting off the week in Mercury's nakshatra, Revati. Revati is about things developing, seeing the power in some things that are really coming into being, but equally at the same time, having to deal with, some painful changes, not really feeling certain what to do in order to create a shift to these particular changes. And it's there with 2 other planets, which are going to be pardon me, a little bit of a throat thing there. 2 other planets which are also going to be in Bharani Nakshatra for part of the week. And so since that's Venus's nakshatra, that's creating for a little bit of difficulty with this particular situation. The sun, equally there, sun starting off in Ashwini nakshatra, and this clearer perspective of a situation, a clearer perspective, but a clearer perspective that is perhaps bringing a little bit of difficulty and a little bit of challenge or pain, that's the word I want to use, is one is recognizing what actually has to happen in order for a transformation to come into being. One senses the potential in the way things could go. One also senses that one might have to face, some difficult truths along the way towards the realization of what one is trying to actually bring about or achieve. But there's going to be some difficulty. And Bharani is really heightened this week. And so we need to talk about that, because nothing good can come into being without first going through a process, right? If we want to create something, let's say we're talking about artwork, if we're wanting to create artwork, well, some of the best artwork is created by artists after they've been going through a very difficult or challenging time. And sometimes even the creative process itself, if you talk to an artist, you'll find that going into that creative process involves going into their feelings. It's very invocative of certain feelings for the individual to go into the creative process. Well, you're dealing with the creative process at the moment. So you're dealing with that challenge. You're dealing with what you're trying to transition towards, and having a little bit of difficulty in facing that. The sun forms an aspect with Jupiter this week. We also see that Venus is similarly going to be forming an aspect with Jupiter this week. And we've got Jupiter also in another nakshatra that's ruled by Venus, and that's Purva Palguni. Purva Palguni is related to, I'm just going to kind of sum it up into one sentence, right? You've got this period of time, and you're able to really take a look at something. Like I said, you're not going to really feel like you want to kind of wait and deal with the process. But as you have that time to do so, part of you is going to go, well, how can I really work with myself in the best manner? I felt pretty loyal towards what I was hoping was going to come into being, and part of me feels determined to really kind of stick with that. But you're going to recognize over the course of the week that really something has to be let go of, right? If we look at Bharani Nakshatra, one of the things that is connected with it, it's associated with Yama. And what Yama did was he ushered souls to the next world and actually gave them a new birth eventually, but first made them reflect over what had come before. And when we leave this physical plane, we can't take our body with us. We go with our soul, right? But we can't just take our body with us. So something always has to be left behind. And you're dealing with the circumstance this week where something is definitely going to either have to take a back seat, and you're recognizing that, or get put to the side, or just kind of disappear from the stage of your life altogether. And there's a recognition that that's the case. But what's that age-old saying? There's a phrase that goes, distance makes the heart grow fonder. Well, we also have Mercury and Venus both forming an aspect to Mars this week. And Mars has shifted out of Jyeshta Nakshatra and back into Anuradha Nakshatra. Anuradha Nakshatra really gives the right perspective on a situation. The process of Anuradha Nakshatra is there to help an individual to really see things from a clear perspective, to really understand something so that they can have right judgment. I know that's somewhat of a Buddhist concept, right judgment, which is being able to see things correctly, being able to have the right relationship to something. And with Mars in Anuradha Nakshatra, it's supported by a powerful Saturn at the moment. And Saturn is also conjuncting Mars. So we've been talking about this slowing down process while Mars and Saturn are sharing the sky, the same section of the sky with each other. And there's definitely a slowing down process. And that's actually something that's good, because you're going to get a chance to make some adjustments. You're going to get a chance to make some changes. And as I've been saying, I'll just keep repeating it. A lot of it, I'm not wanting to scare you by saying this. It's just the process of transformation itself just generally requires this. I wanted to kind of start this week's report by calling it a crucible, right? But with things moving so slowly at the moment, where perhaps you're wanting them to move a little more quickly, it doesn't really feel like there's any heat being applied. But maybe crucible is the right word, because that heat is being applied. Mars is a very hot planet. The sun is a very hot planet, right? So Mars is hot, but he's applying that heat internally, right? He is really making you take a look at a lot of different things. The fire is not able to move externally, though, and actually create those changes. So it begins to feel like you're kind of turning in on yourself. And as you do so, you've got Mercury joining the process in the sky to really kind of take you, as it's retrograding as well, inside of yourself, allowing you to reflect. I don't like talking about all the usual Mercury retrograde stuff that people really like to go into, which is, things going haywire and everything like that. But let's just kind of say something briefly, which is the reason those things happen during Mercury retrograde cycles is because otherwise, if everything was still able to go very well externally, then you wouldn't take the time to reflect. You wouldn't take the time to go inside of yourself. So Mercury going retrograde is a very necessary process. We can't live our entire lives in this extroverted manner. Every once in a while, we need these periods with all these retrograde planets so that we become more internalized. And this week, without going into every single aspect of the week, because really it begins to kind of bring out the same theme after a while, it's going to be this process of recognizing that, you know what? Sure, I don't like what I'm feeling. I'm not happy about what I'm experiencing. But, maybe I need to just kind of sit with this for a while. I'm not really sure, what needs to take place. And maybe on one level, it's good that I don't know which way to act or what the right thing to do is, because then I'm really going to kind of take this situation apart and I'm going to look at it bit by bit until I become absolutely positive about what to do with it. You're going to be willing to make those changes because you're going to be supported by Mars. Let's kind of, I just want to highlight this again because it's so powerful that we've got all these retrograde planets. So Saturn, right? What does Saturn do? One of the things Saturn does is he crystallizes. He equally creates discipline. Without Saturn, we wouldn't have time. Saturn rules time as well, right? How important is time, right? If we didn't have time, all of creation would all happen at once, right? Our minds wouldn't be able to sort through that. So we need Saturn. He moves slowly, sure. He makes us upset, sure. But we need Saturn in order to deal with things. So when Saturn goes retrograde, you've got this crystallization process. It's a process of becoming. A lot of people talk about Saturn being a very obstructive planet. Well, Saturn is equally a very creative planet, right? Because without that crystallization process, no form could ever come into creation, right? Then you've got Mars. Mars, if you think about Mars, in terms of the body, Mars rules the nervous system, right? Mars is equally also the ruler of surgery. So you've got energy and you've got a process of really deeply going inside yourself, taking all this energy that's ordinarily being extroverted and being used to act in your life. And you're using that to go inside yourself, right? And to really kind of weed out all the stuff that's not working in your life. Weed out the wrong way that you're relating to a situation so that you can see it in the right perspective, right? Then you've got Jupiter, right? When Jupiter is the planet of expansion, it's equally also the planet of spiritual wisdom, spiritual expansion. So when Jupiter's retrograde, it's a process of finding meaning. And then you've got Mercury. Mercury, which is the planet of discernment, differentiation, being able to see the difference between one thing and another thing, right? If we didn't have Mercury to be so objective like that, we wouldn't be able to see the difference between things, right? Everything would all, look the same in this world, right? So to experience consciousness, we need Mercury. So Mercury is going to retrograde, and rather than being involved in all these interactions and external processes, instead you're going to reflect back on the transition that you're going through and the sensitivities that you're experiencing in relation to that, and the fact that you're dealing, for lack of a better way to put it, a process of being in a state of limbo, which on one level you may not like. And that's Venus speaking. That's Venus in Revati Nakshatra, right? You may not like that because inside of yourself you feel like you're facing all these challenges. But ultimately, this is a very good process, right? This is a very good time, basically because of the padas. And one of the things I do over the course of the week, without going too much into depth with it, is I look at the padas that each of these planets are going to be transiting through the nakshatras, and you can kind of get an idea of what the focus is going to be on. And I'll give a little bit of a teaching. When you've got a planet in the first pada, that's Dharma related. Second is going to be Artha related. Third is going to be Kama related. And fourth is going to be Moksha related. Well, we've got a predominance of Kama, Dharma, and Artha, right? So you're wanting to make sure that you do the right thing. Your desire is really to do the right thing. You're caring less as the week progresses about shifting from a situation or being free of it. It's still there, it's still in the background, but it's more about, what do I do to do the right thing? I really want to go into this and get it right this time. And you can get it right this time. So just go with the process, sit with it, find a good outlet for all those feelings. It's always a good thing to do. You're going into it so you can get it out. Right. And so you can get it right. That's the big thing, getting it right. Okay, so that's going to do it for a look at the week ahead through Vedic astrology. And just to mention, if you want to schedule something with me, there is a link below where you can go to my astrological services page and schedule an astrological consultation with me. That's going to do it. Take care. Bye now.